Now, it's actually a huge day of climbing right from the off today. 7 mountains and 70 mountain points on stage 9, with summits after only 3.5 and 11 kilometres. The heart of the stage, though, is the trio of super category climbs. The Col de la Biche, the Grand Colombier, climbed from its steepest side, then the Mont du Chat, from the top of which there's a terrifying 13-kilometre descent before the flat or flattish run into Chambery.
Today's finish isn't about the finish, it's about numbers. 14 kilometres of twisting road, 1,200 metres of descending and 11 hairpins. Those are the ingredients that make up the descent of the Col de Chat. As we saw, most of the top riders have already tackled this horrifying high-speed downhill in the Dauphiné last month. Well, I'm told they did. I had my eyes closed. Today, though, I'm going to keep them open as we take a look at what awaits them. As they tip over the top and see Chambery in the distance, the speed will quickly creep up over the 80 km/h mark as they plunge through the fir trees. Because of the tree cover, they'll be doing virtually all of this descent blind, and they'll be relying on the lead vehicle's brake lights going on and off to tell them what's around the corner. If anybody does manage to get away, they'll be very quickly out of sight and possibly out of mind. Having gained lots of speed on the lightly twisting upper section, they'll be brought to an abrupt halt by these hairpin bends. The stop-start nature of the whole thing was described by Chris Froome as like playing a video game. It'll take them less than 14 minutes to get down to Bourges de Lac, and from there it's a lumpy 12 kilometres to the line. Anybody who has managed to slip away is going to find that section tough. And talking about slippery, you might have noticed how deathly slow we were going whilst filming behind a car on this newly laid wet asphalt surface. And there's thunderstorms forecast for this afternoon too, which is going to wash away the morale of the poor descenders and make chance a big part of the outcome today.
Well, it was dry in Nantua for the rollout at least, and before things get going, let's quickly remind ourselves of the standings. Froome, Thomas, Aru, Martin, Port is the top 5, with Simon Yates, the white jersey, in 6th. And Romain Bardet riding on roads he and his AG2R teammates know well because the team is based in this area, in 7th. Then it's Alberto Contador, Nairo Quintana and Rafael Majka. Now, immediately the road started climbing, the French national champion Arnaud Démare slipped off the back, so he and some of the other sprinters will have a long day trying to make the time limit. And on the first descent, the damp roads produced crashes. This one put 2 riders out of the race. The second-place man on yesterday's stage, Robert Hesink, on the left of the picture, and Manuel Mori in obvious pain on the ground. Thibaut Pinot led over the first 2 climbs, then took 3rd behind Thomas de Gendt on the 3rd as a group of 38 riders formed and then split on the first of the super category climbs, the Col de la Biche. Primož Roglič dropped the remains of the group to take the 20 points at the top, with Alexis Vuillermoz, one of 3 AG2R riders in the break, second behind him, Warren Barguil 3rd and Pinot 4th. Then came a coordinated AG2R move. Vuillermoz, Axel Daumont and Jan Bakelants attacked on the descent from the front of the break. Romain Bardet and Cyril Gauthier did the same to Sky, who'd been controlling the main field behind. In the chase, Geraint Thomas came down in a crash that also involved Rafael Majka and was forced to abandon, reportedly with a broken collarbone. So that's the second-place rider and a crucial teammate for Chris Froome out of the race. Alberto Contador was on the floor on the next climb after contact with another rider, but quickly back on his bike after help from some spectators. Warren Barguil led over the next climb, the Grand Colombier, to take a 20-point lead in the King of the Mountains competition. And astonishingly, his Sunweb teammate Michael Matthews also scored for 8th, having managed not only to get into the day's break, but stay in the front group. That meant, unlikely as it seemed at the start of the day, that the intermediate sprint was a meaningful one. Andre Greipel's teammate, Tony Gallopin, threatened to contest it with Matthews, but didn't in the end. So the hardest fought 20 green jersey points of the Tour so far for Michael Matthews. Job done, he dropped back, while Tony Gallopin kept going towards the Mont du Chat. 6 kilometres from the summit, first Warren Barguil, then Jan Bakelants passed him. And that's the situation as we join it with the group containing all the favourites at 2 minutes 15 and closing.
Oh, ouch. Tony Gallopin. Well, the Mont du Chat was his opportunity, but also his undoing. His legs have come off. Gallopin won't be winning from here. Not his day. He is... now, Aru's on the attack. And where's Chris Froome, once again, is issuing a motorbike. What has happened to the yellow jersey?
His gears have failed.
Fabio Aru and Nairo Quintana taking advantage of a situation on the road that has suddenly affected Chris Froome. We've seen this before, haven't we? On a mountain, calling for mechanical assistance, virtually coming to a halt. Mikel Nieve looks around to see what's happening to the yellow jersey. What is going on here? Aru has sent blood and he strikes. So the Italian national champion is on the march. He sweeps past Jarlens and Pantano. Nairo Quintana has reacted as well. There goes Froome. He's getting a push-off from a Team Sky mechanic who's leapt out of the car, appearing from nowhere, and the yellow jersey, friendless at the moment without his domestiques, is in trouble. Reboots his computer, reboots his mind, and goes again. But Aru and Quintana and Porte too are flying up the road and away from the yellow jersey, and Bardet too. They're all attacking the yellow jersey. Contador, they've all seized this opportunity, and Dan Martin, and at the moment the yellow jersey is absent from that picture entirely. That was the moment that he put his arm in the air and virtually came to a halt. He's got all his domestiques with him, and they are going to need to throw down the ride of their life to bring him back. That's the front of affairs at the moment. That's Richie Porte, Nairo Quintana, Romain Bardet, Aru, who was the first to go. Where's the yellow jersey? Let's have a look at the back there, and there's some frustration from Aru there. They're all sensing that it's coming to a halt. Has that been neutralised?
No, there's some respect. Aru saw him lift his arm and attacked, so he saw it as an opportunity. Now everyone else is paying their respects to the yellow jersey. No one else is moving. Now Aru's now getting infuriated. They've all come down and shut it down, and look, they're all sitting there showing respect and not going for it, which is amazing. But Aru saw it happen and saw it as an opportunity. Now look, everyone else is paying respect to the yellow jersey. They're going to let him come back up.
Well, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening now. Look at this, it's amazing. So it still does exist. So although Aru saw it as an opportunity, everyone else is giving the yellow jersey the respect it deserves. But, you know, racing's racing. What happened there is, let's say his gears failed, so he was stuck in his smallest gear, so he had to have a bike change. So that's when he's gone back, he's got his teammates back there. Now, the moment he comes back, they can attack again. I'm sure Aru will.
Well, Froome will have been on the limit psychologically, emotionally, and of course physically to chase back on. There goes Jakob Fuglsang now.
No, Quintana went with him and then refused to ride with him. So Quintana almost
sat
blocked.
on the wheels.
He basically covered it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So it was Aru and Aru alone.
Aru alone.
Looking at the picture evidence you saw.
Yeah. Now Fuglsang's going, and this is a good tactic. So Astana, they need to keep the pressure on. Chris Froome's just had to go a little bit in the red, I imagine, and I think he's having a few words with Aru, Chris Froome.
Yeah.
Or he's finding out from the other guys what happens, because he won't see it. Obviously, we've seen much more than he has.
Yeah.
He will have seen Aru attack as he's going back, and then everyone reacting, but he won't realise that it was only Aru that did it.
So Team Sky move to the front again. Sergio Henao puts a lid on that all, and bad blood clearly now between the yellow jersey of Chris Froome and the national champions jersey of Fabio Aru, just riding to the right of him.
That's been to the massive benefit of Barguil, because look, it's slowed the pace down. Although there was that injection of pace from Aru as he attacked the yellow jersey during the mechanical, but then everyone else going and essentially blocking the road on behalf of the yellow jersey has meant that it's all slowed down again. Now Team Sky can get back into a rhythm.
And that'll be simmering with tension at the moment.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's no love lost, and that's probably could end up being the worst thing Aru could have ever done, because if he's made Chris Froome's angry.
Meanwhile, Jakob Fuglsang has attacked, and don't forget Fuglsang, well, he won the Dauphiné, and he went over this climb, and this was a stage that he won in the end, out-sprinting Richie Porte on the finish line.
Exactly, so as well, and this is perfect. Oh, look at that, he just body-checked him. Chris Froome just body-checked Aru, just put him into the fans as he tried to move by.
You don't mess with Chris Froome. Mild-mannered, maybe. There we go. And just that little corrective hand saying, do not do that again.
I think he's trying to say it was a mistake. I didn't mean to.
Oh, you mean that was an apology?
Yeah, that was an apology, or incredible passive aggression. It's all going on.
Well, we've got our controversy on the Queen stage in many people's eyes of the Tour de France. Stage 9 has produced drama in abundance.
So Barguil's there now. The thing is, for the riders, Benoit's now trying to move across, trying to get closer to Barguil, who's up ahead. You can see the team car, that's where Barguil is. And you see how steep it is here. I mean, I know they're all tired and they've been up the road, but look, this is Fuglsang, and you can see it's a very slow speed climb, because, I mean, averaging 10% for 8Ks. They are using tiny gears.
Danny Navarro, the Cofidis rider, was part of the breakaway, and I don't think he'll be hanging on to the back wheel of Alberto Contador and George Bennett for too much longer. Primoz Roglic is the other rider from Team Lotto.
Contador, and yeah, Mikel Landa isn't good, so Mikel Nieves had to take this. Mikel Landa's going to have to pull off soon. As Alberto Contador's getting distance at the back of the group.
Yeah. Just not happened for Contador on this tour so far. He wanted to attack today. The legs aren't there. on this edition of the Tour de France. Don't think Contador will be on the podium or even close to it when we come to Paris unless he recovers his form dramatically in the next 2 weeks of the race, because at the moment he doesn't look competitive. Great ride from Warren Barguil though. And he's within 2 kilometres from the top of the climb. Now Aru goes again. Now this time it's legitimate. And this time he is allowed to attack. And who's going to counter? At the moment, Chris Froome is doing it on his own. Richie Porte just comes back to the wheel of Fabio Aru. But we are opening up the attacking phase of the Mont du Chat. And it's Richie Porte now. It's not a big attack, but just an acceleration. And just a momentary sense that the yellow jersey might have a battle on his hands today. Just trying to get back onto the wheel of Richie Porte. But Froome rides these kinds of mountains brilliantly, using all that experience.
Simon Yates there was in trouble as well, so it really is coming down to the top guys on GC now battling out. Dan Martin still looking very good up there. Richie Porte looking strong. Almost he was just testing a little bit, seeing how quickly people were going to react, and as usual Chris Froome reacted immediately and is looking ominously like Chris Froome at his best. Nairo Quintana looking good as well, so that's good to see.
Porte looks good.
Dan Martin is now suffering. That Richie Porte attack has put Dan Martin in big trouble.
There's Simon Yates, there's the white jersey. He's dropped from the group there. That is Bauke Mollema from the original breakaway, and suddenly it's distilled down to this. Nairo Quintana, Fabio Aru, Romain Bardet, Rigoberto Urán from Canadel Drepak, and Richie Porte. And the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. Meintjes is going backwards. Contador going backwards faster than Louis Meintjes. So you're right, he's going to sustain heavy time losses on today's stage, regardless of what happens in the next phase of the race.
Chris Froome now launches his very own attack.
He's done it again. Urán is looking really strong there, and Richie Porte knew that was coming from Chris Froome because he's ridden with him so many times.
Blown it, so Quintana's blown. Aru's in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, what the difference is, when Chris Froome goes, he doesn't slow down again. He knows he can take this to the summit. You can see Richie Porte grimacing. Bardet's just got to hang on. He knows how well he can send. Nairo Quintana's out. So he's not going to be able to fix that situation now. Chris Froome will be hearing this Aru. Aru, there's certainly no love lost. And if he hears that on the radio, that will be the only motivation Chris Froome needs now to take all the work himself.
Fabio Aru digging deep, trying to get back into the race, but the race at the moment is some 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 plus bike lengths, and they are honing in on Jakob Fuglsang. So those succession of attacks have eaten into the advantage that Jakob Fuglsang had over the race. So his attack is being nullified as well. At the moment, Astana have gambled and are losing. Fabio Aru hasn't given up. There he is. But Jakob Fuglsang pretty soon will see that in his rearview mirror the yellow jersey is honed right into view. Look at the effort that Aru is engaged in just to close that tantalising gap to the rear wheel of Romain Bardet. Bardet, incidentally, is still looking really good, and he has reacted just as Urán has, and has Porte to all the big attacks.
And watch how it's still Bardet, if he can just recover a little bit. His trademark is to try and go in the final 200 or 300 metres to lead into the descent. And Dan Martin's creeping back up behind Fabio Aru. Aru's just latching back on. So Chris Froome continues, and he's just going to keep continuing. This is what he does. He takes it all the way to the summit. And that's what you have to do, is drop people. You have to wear them down.
Warren Barguil won't want to know the time gaps because they have come down now to 45 seconds. They might be withholding that information from him because the yellow jersey, Chris Froome, is spinning those gears and he's on a charge once again. It's a dominant display. He had all sorts of bother at the beginning of this climb with a mechanical. Fabio Aru attacked him. The race was neutralised. He came back. He has withstood all the attacks that have been launched his way so far. And now he is the one who is putting the rest of the race under pressure. And the pressure is told for Nairo Quintana, as it has for Alberto Contador and a number of the others.
You can see Urán up there as Contador's almost at a standstill now, so he's just completely out of the race. Probably 2 minutes, over 2.5 minutes down probably in the yellow jersey. Warren Barguil, he's just got to make it to the summit, because if he gets those points, that's going to give him an unassailable lead for the next few days in the mountains classification.
Dan's back on.
Dan Martin made it back on. Now all he has to do is really get in there and make sure that he can stick this group, not attack once, just make sure he keeps it together for the finish sprint, because if he can do that, he can more than likely win.
Let's see, the next phase of racing is upon us, but for the time being, Chris Froome has them all in a throttle hold on this climb. He is just suffocating the life out of them at the moment. They can't do anything about it. They cannot get past the yellow jersey at the moment. The pace he is setting is just locking them down into suffering, and they are absolutely on the limit just to stay with him at the moment. Credit to Warren Barguil. At the moment on this phase of the race, he is climbing at the same pace as Chris Froome. Froome almost toying with them. He looks round, he wants to see who's there, and when he does look round, he'll see that that there are 6 riders on his wheel, but they are all absolutely flat out just to live with the yellow jersey at the moment. And Nairo Quintana is sustaining big losses. He's at least 30 seconds further back down the mountain, and his Tour de France is falling away, and it's gone for Alberto Contador almost definitively. There's almost no way back for Contador on the Tour de France unless something exceptional happens in the Pyrenees or in the Alps still to come.
Well, he's going to hold them off, Warren Barguil. This is a phenomenal ride. Truly is. For people to understand, to double up 2 days. Yesterday, which was one of the hardest days of the race, today one of the hardest days of the race, and he's managed to be off the front all day, corrects the tactical mistakes he made yesterday, and riding a very conservative, clever race today. And it's going to reap huge benefits, even if he doesn't win the stage, because he will be in the polka dot jersey this evening. At the very least now, Warren Barguil will be in the polka dot jersey when the race resumes in 2 days' time after the rest day. Okay, so Fuglsang is now taking control for Aru, just keeping the pace high. So I guess this riding for the GC race now. But although Aru will move up into second overall, Dan Martin coming to get points. So Dan Martin still interested in mountain points and putting himself in a good position for the descent. Bardet is obviously slightly on the ropes. Otherwise, we would have seen him attack over the top there. All right, so Dan Martin leads a group of favourites over the top, 13 seconds down on the time of Warren Barguil, who took the climb over the Mont du Chat, and now they start to descend. Let's see who goes down this well. Jakob Fuglsang, one of 2 Astana riders in this very elite group. Fabio Aru in disgrace somewhat, and Chris Froome has absolutely bossed that climb and asserted himself. Warren Barguil is the lone leader, and he is holding off the chase at the moment by about 11 seconds, 10 seconds, but I think that's going to start to fall, and Barguil will have to do something exceptional if he's going to stay away from the chase group of all the favourites. All it takes is one of these riders to make a mistake on the descent, and we have a completely different race. Fuglsang leads them down. Then the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. Then comes Fabio Aru. After that, Dan Martin. And then Rigoberto Urán from Canadel Drapac and Romain Bardet. It's strange, rare to see Bardet at the back of the group like this on a descent that he knows well that he could make a difference on. But I don't know, might be playing a little bit of a cautious game because it is a new surface. We heard from Chris Boardman, who did this morning on his bike, that it is very slippy. Nairo Quintana, all on his own. How he could do with one of his key dominants, how he could do, frankly, with Alejandro Valverde to look after him right now. Yeah, so Contador with Bauke Mollema, who's been out of France all days, back into domestique role, although it's over 3 minutes down, I think, now. So yep. That's the GC race is just disappearing up the road. Oh, no! Yeah. Well, that's Richie Porte and Dan Martin. Dan Martin and Porte, and 2 riders are down, and really big, significant riders too. Richie Porte has, well, it looked like a bad crash as well. Dan Martin just about getting himself up, but Porte was still down when the camera flashed past him. What happened there? Well, we don't know. Hopefully we'll get some images, but it was a high-speed crash. Here we go. All right, let's have a look. There's the yellow jersey going round the corner. There's Porte, and he just loses that wheel. He does well to... Oh, he's gone down really hard there. Very hard. Oh, and Martin straight into him. Really heavy crash, not just into the rider, but into the stone at the side of the road as well. The problem we're going to have here is the cars, the team cars aren't near, so he's got to go neutral. He's out of the race. Oh, no. Yeah. Dan Martin, he hasn't got a spare bike there because, look, the Mavic neutral, his team car isn't behind it. It's the convoy is so stretched out that he's going to have to go, and I hope his bike's not completely damaged. Yeah, he's gone down very hard, Richie Porte. That is a medical officer who is with him now, so he's got attention immediately, and he's talking. So. But there's a lot of concern there about his right arm in particular. Awful, awful. And that was just, it was unfortunate. It wasn't road surface or anything. He just made a mistake. He rode off the road, braked slightly wrong, and took the wrong line and found himself on the inside in the grass, and there was nothing he could do once that happened. And poor Dan Martin has now been caught up and paid the price for that. As we said, in a descent like this, all it takes for what looks like it's a pretty much status quo now to the finish, everything's now changed once again. Here you go, you see it, there he goes, bang. Oh. Urán did incredibly well to get round that and get out, and look, instantly Martin's accusing Porte. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, it was just one of those things, wasn't it? And that is the consequence. That's the end of the Tour de France for the man who many people thought was going to win it. He'll be devastated. I mean, he's in bitter agony at the moment, but when that sinks in and when he realises what's happened, his entire year, his entire move from Team Sky to assume the leadership of BMC, up in smoke in the blink of an eye. Oh, no, Dan Martin's crashed again. I've just heard on race radio. So Dan Martin's got up and he's gone down, and apparently he's now hit the ground again. So hopefully he's okay. Well,
That's just not what you want to see on the Tour de France for any rider at all.
Well, now it's gone down again, and as I said, the team cars take a long time to get to you in this situation because of the narrow roads and the fact the race has all exploded in quite a short space of time. Sometimes you have to wait a minute, 2 minutes for your car to get to you. So Dan Martin, sadly, his GC hopes could be disappearing at this very moment by no fault of his own.
Simon Yates has been dropped. Romain Bardet could well be moving himself into a podium position at the end of the day. Fabio Aru will, by default, move into second place unless something extraordinary happens, and don't rule that out, by the way, in between here and the finish line.
Look at Chris Froome's distance. Bardet is seeing this. Fuglsang can't even hold Chris Froome's wheel. So Chris Froome, we get to see here just how skilled he is in the descent. You can take it for granted, but when you see Richie Porte go make a mistake like he did, it goes to show the skills you need all round.
Because Jakob Fuglsang is a great descender as well.
And look, Bardet is now going up there. I wouldn't be surprised Bardet is attacking, yes. So I had a feeling Bardet would do this. He knows Chris Froome, in theory, shouldn't take too many risks. But we also know Chris Froome does, when he's in the yellow, he won't let anything go. So this is a great move by Bardet to try and distance the Astana riders.
He's got around about 5 kilometres, maybe a little less, maybe 4.5 in which to do some damage to Chris Froome's lead. And that could be bad news for Warren Barguil. He's had, well, he's got 24 seconds now. But if Bardet really attacks, some of that might be shaved off pretty quickly.
Well, you see, there's only one rider in front of Bardet now, and that's Aru, and he's 37 seconds. Now look at his distance. So yeah, because Chris Froome will not take the risks. Bardet is one of the best descenders in cycling. He knows his descent, and he's gone, and he knows that, especially after that crash, everyone's going to be a little bit sketched out. But look, Chris Froome now he should just let Aru and Fuglsang deal with this, because that's the place that's at stake. Bardet is trying to take Fabio Aru's place on GC because he's 37 seconds behind him at the moment.
Well, at the moment it's only 2 or 3 seconds, but when he starts to disappear around around these little hairpins and disappear from sight, that might stretch out still further. Great move from Bardet, not unexpected. We know that he knows this mountain. We know that he loves to descend. Perhaps he could have done it a little bit earlier, who knows? Well, but he's done it. He has done it.
The thing was, I think he was put so far in the red by Chris Froome on the climb that very rarely, as I said, do you see Bardet at the back of a group like that on a descent. He likes to lead into the descent and do this very thing. I just had on race rate. Dan Martin is up again and going, so he's okay, but he's going to be losing a lot of time, unfortunately.
Aru glued to the wheel of the yellow jersey. There will be words exchanged in those two camps, I'm sure, between Fabio Aru and Chris Froome's respective teams. And as if by stealth, the Colombian rider, not Nairo Quintana, but Rigoberto Urán, is riding himself into a very high position in the general classification after a real... Well, he's turning the clock back, Rigoberto Urán. And so too is this guy, Warren Barguil, ride of his life. 20 seconds to defend. Can he hold on? 12 kilometres of flat road after this descent that he's going to have to solo to the finish line.
There we go. This Richie Porte getting taken into the ambulance. So just so everybody knows, he is conscious, and we have seen him talking, but this will just be a precautionary. Hopefully it's not very, very serious.
I mean, it was a heavy crash.
He did smash his back, that's for sure. But it did. He was all moving, and but it was one of those crashes.
It's never in doubt. That was the kind of crash you see that you know he's out of the Tour de France.
Oh yeah, that was
just out.
Huge one. Reminiscent of the Olympic road race.
Yeah. All right. Okay. 22 seconds. Warren Barguil now is on the flat roads.
22 seconds from the yellow jersey. 10, 11 seconds back to Bardet, who's coming up fast. There he is.
It's a great ride from a team that have really lit up this race. There we go. Here the discussions are starting to happen. So Fuglsang has rejoined the action, and now Froome, just as you said, is asking other riders to get together and work together.
Well, Fuglsang's back, so he can put the workload on them. But as he said, it's amazing how things change so quickly. They now have to rely on each other to work together.
Yeah, well, that would be the convention deal that might be done, but still Bardet has to get across to Warren Barguil. The Mont du Chat has produced extraordinary drama, a lot of it unexpected, some of it quite upsetting, actually. Richie Porte is out of the race, but we still have a bike race to watch and admire. They've hit the flat roads now, plenty of racing until the finish line. Down the bottom of the climb now, two Astana riders. Fabio Aru has Jakob Fuglsang to work for him. Then comes Rigoberto Urán, and the yellow jersey for now is content to allow these riders to do most of the work. Up ahead, two solo riders, Warren Barguil just 26 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey group, but he'll be more concerned about the rider who is closing with each passing kilometre, and he is right on the wheel now as Romain Bardet closes the gap to Warren Barguil. Barguil now knows he's there. He looks across his right shoulder. He'll see Bardet coming up to him, and I think he's just relaxing the pace so that Bardet does get to him, because Barguil's chances of holding off that very committed four-man group might be quite slim in the 12 kilometres of racing remaining, and they'll be enhanced by Romain Bardet's presence, if they can work together and do a deal.
Well, we're going to see immediately how Warren Barguil reacts when he comes up and what words are exchanged. Let's see Warren Bardet coming up. Barguil knows him well. He knows what he wants to do. He knows that he's riding a GC race, and there he's accelerating again. So yeah, he had a little breather, and now these two are going to work together.
Meanwhile, what's going on here? Neutral service vehicle for Rigoberto Urán, whose neck is not functioning properly, and that's a nightmare for him.
It's broken. So, and as I said, there's no convoy behind, so he's in a bit of a situation here.
Rolling repairs. Does that mean that he can't change gear?
Let me see.
Oh, he's in a massive gear on this little climb. So he tried to change down for this little rise in the road, and he's not been able to.
Barguil's been dropped. Barguil's been dropped. So this is it now.
This is a big move, make no mistake about that. Romain Bardet on his home turf here. Romain Bardet, that is a major development in the Tour de France. He started the day in 7th place, 47 seconds down in the general classification. If he wins this stage, there are still 11 kilometres to go. He will take a time gap over all these riders, and he'll take 10 seconds as well.
Look at
Bardet
Urán.
is propelling himself up the road and in the standings of the Tour de France.
Urán stuck in that gear. Look at him. Oh, the brute force. That's incredible. This point in the race, having to survive that gear. Bardet is flying. 32 seconds on the yellow jersey. This is a phenomenal ride. But now you see the rear derailleur is stuck in small ring and smallest gears.
Just need more stuff to happen, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, it's very simple for Bardet. It's just absolutely all out for that finish line. It's still a horribly long distance away. 6.7 kilometres of roads he knows so well. Look at Urán, look at his cadence relative to everyone else, grinding that big gear. And Chris Froome, relative to Urán, he is just twiddling the gears behind him and sitting on. So Chris Froome, this is OK for him. He has this race under control, I think.
This group, I mean, Dan Martin, hats off.
Yeah.
It was to no fault of his own, caught up in that horrendous crash of Richie Port, then got back on. And I heard on race radio that he then crashed again. We'll have to wait and get that confirmed by him. And yet he's still with the group with Simon Yates, Nairo Quintana. So it's a stellar ride.
I think Romain Bardet is going to get caught. Look, they're going to catch him with 2 kilometres to go. Are they going to get there? They still haven't quite closed the deal.
What was Aru just doing then? Fuglsang was accelerating off the front. He should have just let him go and called the bluff again, and then sat on the yellow jersey and made them work to bring back Fuglsang.
Oh, well, that's it now. The catch is there. OK, so Romain Bardet has been caught with 2.2k to go. There is the 2 kilometre arch. Now Bardet knows it's not going to work like this. Can he just recuperate, and can he attack them again? Urán moves to the front in that ridiculous gear that he is stuck with, and hats off to Rigoberto Urán. What a great ride that is from him. He might win this stage. Well, he's got a sprinter's gear on him.
He's got one big gear on there, but it does mean for the acceleration he'll be compromised. So
ordinarily, though, you'd make him one of the big favourites here.
Yeah, you would. Let's not forget, from a group similar to this at Dauphiné on the same stage, Fuglsang won the sprint.
Yeah.
But that was only because Richie Port hit out far too early.
Yeah.
It's the Fuglsang you put down. This is where Aru and Fuglsang need to work together.
Yeah.
They need to speak. Now it's about the stage. And we know Chris Froome, we know he'll try to win this stage. That's what he's like.
Yeah.
And as he said, because the time bonuses is all the more important.
Yeah.
And Barguil's just sitting there. His probably only option is to do an early attack because the sprint isn't that good. Fuglsang's going again, so this is where Aru needs to be on his wheel and let him go.
Sit back and watch the next 1.5 kilometres of racing. Cycling honestly doesn't get much more dramatic than this. It does not get better than this. You've got Chris Froome in the yellow jersey, who might win the stage. You've got Warren Barguil, who the whole of France and Romain Bardet will be hoping can win the stage. You've got Fabien Aru, who could easily win this stage, and what a story that might be. Jakob Fuglsang might repeat his victory of the Dauphiné, and Rigoberto Urán, whose bike is malfunctioning and has reappeared as a GC rider from nowhere for Cannondale-Drepac. Any of those riders could win this stage, and any of them would be a huge story. The final kilometre is going to be fascinating to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it's 500 metres to go. They've got a right-hander, and so that's going to, you've got to be in a good position. Romain Bardet is in the best position at the moment, or arguably Aru actually. But
what about Barguil?
Barguil, let's hope he has to go early, I think. So I don't think sprint, but he's not going to be able to now because the lead out there. Chris Froome's actually doing the lead out himself. Just going to try and ride them off his wheel.
Well, is it a lead out? Is it an attack? What is it? Chris Froome's just riding his bike fast, isn't he, at the moment?
He's just running that. Oh, wow. Yeah,
that's a really tight corner. The pitchers just freeze up there. They're all round it. Aru is the worst placed at the moment, unless he can use that big train as a lead out to sweep past all of them. But Froome is just setting such a horrible pace, much like he did up the Mont du Chat. He looks around to see who's going to attack.
And you can see Uran is stuck in that big gear, so he'd be a good wheel to be on. Actually, the fact he's on Chris Froome's wheel, he has to start early, Uran, or he should have started from the back so he could really wind it up. Here we go. So Fuglsang's going first. Bardet's choosing the wheel. He's chosen Uran. So let's see if Bardet's trying. He's in a big gear. If he can sprint at all, it'd be a miracle.
400 metres to 350 to go. Jakob Fuglsang hits the front. He's going to be a hard rider to catch. Is he going to do it again over the Mont du Chat? That would be some story. Jakob Fuglsang for Denmark, but Uran has powered across to the Danish wheel. Can anyone jump off the wheel? Romain Bardet, one last big effort from Bardet. Can he get over to Uran? Can Uran hold on? Barguil has come from nowhere. Barguil, Uran. Barguil punches the air. He thinks he's won it. He's won it. We think he's won it. We're waiting for confirmation. This group, Dan Martin and Nairo Quintana. Well, Dan Martin is the story in this group. Nairo Quintana, are we seeing the end of his Tour de France challenge? Probably not. You can never rule out Nairo Quintana. But Martin, how unfortunate is that? He crosses in a group with Quintana and Simon Yates, and Barguil knows he's won it now. We understand a photograph is being looked at, and they are just checking the result that we think is the case. We think Barguil's won it. He's certainly being shepherded now to the protocol area where the winners are waiting, and he is overwhelmed with emotion. What a day out. And look at that. Look at that. It's not Barguil. We now see the picture, and that suggests that Rigoberto Uran has won this stage of the Tour de France, breaking French hearts. But what a story in a malfunctioning bike. A rider, almost a rider of yesteryear, coming back and taking a stunning victory at the very last.
Warren Barguil was certainly stunned. French television had already interviewed him after telling him he'd won, but it was Uran who was asked to scrub up for the podium. There's the result, a photo finish for first, as if the stage hadn't had enough drama. Chris Froome picked up another 4-second bonus for third place in the end, ahead of Romain Bardet, Fabio Aru and Jakob Fuglsang. Dan Martin came in a minute 15 down, along with Nairo Quintana. Simon Yates was in that group too. His white jersey rival Pierre Latour, though, lost more time than him, 4 minutes 19, as did Alberto Contador. No real medical update to bring you on Richie Porte, I'm afraid, other than to say he was conscious, coherent, and asking for his glasses and helmet as he was put into the ambulance after his nasty crash and skid across the road into the path of Dan Martin, whose foot hitting Rigoberto Uran's derailleur, it turns out, was what left the Colombian with limited gear options.
Dan, obviously we saw you crash halfway down the descent at the Mont du Chat. What was your view of the incident?
Oh, Richie just lost it on one corner. It's so slippery, you know. And yeah, I guess the organisers got what they wanted, you know.
So it's a case of the route being dangerous, not riders taking too many risks as far as you're concerned?
I don't think anybody wants to take risks on there, but it was so slippery under the trees, and just like Richie just locked up his back wheel, went straight into the grass, wiped out, and then his bike just collected me, you know. And yeah, I had nowhere to go. It was, again, I was very, very lucky to come away as lightly as I did, I think.
And what have you hurt, Dan?
I don't know, yeah. It was just, I think adrenaline has kind of covered it up so far.
And until then, the stage was going perfectly for you?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really follow the accelerations on the climb, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I was very lucky a couple of times. The first crash when Geraint went down, his bike actually hit handlebars, you know, it was that close, and then I got through and yeah, just wasn't, my luck ran out in the end.
So here's the recap of riders who departed the race today one way or another. 4 in crashes: Geraint Thomas, Richie Porte, Manuele Mori and Robert Gesink. 2 listed as outside the time limit: Marcel Kittel's lead-out man Matteo Trentin and Peter Sagan's brother Juraj. And another 6 listed as though they'd lost their transponders, which I think just meant outside the time limit. That included Jos van Emden, who we didn't see, and Mark Renshaw, Arnaud Demar, and Demar's 3 teammates Mikel Delage, Jacopo Guarnieri and Ignatius Konovalovas, who we did. So a fabulous stage win on a fixie almost for Rigoberto Uran. The consolation prize of the mountain jersey for Warren Barguil after his brilliant day out. And an increased lead in the white jersey competition for Simon Yates after a stage that was a step up from anything he'd yet experienced.
Another level, yeah. No, I'm really pretty tired, and I gave absolutely everything there and had nothing. I almost got dropped from my group there in the final. I really gave it the maximum. But I'm happy with my ride. All the same, like I said, I gave everything I had there.
You're looking solid in white. That's one good thing. And the other good thing is 6th in GC, so you live to fight another day. Nonetheless, you're looking dejected.
No, not at all. Just extremely hard day. I'm just, trying to soak it in really, because I'm looking forward to the rest day. I think I need it because I'm absolutely
Now, here's the new GC. Geraint Thomas, of course, is gone from second place, which now belongs to Fabio Aru, although he's 4 seconds further down on Chris Froome. Romain Bardet is third, Rigoberto Urán up to fourth, Jakob Fuglsang fifth, Dan Martin sixth at a minute 44 instead of the 25 seconds he was this morning. Simon Yates and Nairo Quintana are at 2:02 and 2:13. Alberto Contador is already more than 5 minutes down. So whether it's luck, skill, preparation or the aura of the yellow jersey, Chris Froome emerges from the day's drama with his grip on the race lead strengthened. Although it could have been different if Fabio Aru's attack at his moment of mechanical crisis hadn't been shut down by a small working group of other favourites.
Chris, it must be a wretched situation to be racing when first Geraint and then Richie go down. In Richie's case, possibly with will it look bad?
I've just seen the images now, and it leaves me with a horrible feeling, really nasty. Really mixed feelings. Of course, I'm still happy to have finished and been up there, but at the same time, having seen those images, that's horrible. It's horrible, and I hope that he has a speedy recovery and isn't really badly injured. The same to Geraint Thomas. He crashed out earlier on the stage. Again, just I think a touch of wheels on the wet descent, and he broke his collarbone by the sounds of it. We're really going to miss G for the next 2 weeks as well.
And it was a stage, apart from the falls, full of incident. There was, of course, a moment when you had your arm up. You seemed to have gear trouble, and there was a little attack by Fabio Aru. Did he sort of come under your arm? It's difficult to tell from the shots. And there was an attack, but then that seemed to be neutralised, perhaps down to Richie actually calming things down.
I didn't actually see the attack by Aru, but I had a mechanical problem and had to change bikes, and I think Richie was pretty instrumental in slowing that group down and basically saying to the guys, listen, guys, this isn't the moment to attack the leader of the race when he's just had a mechanical issue. So, again, thanks to Richie and thanks to the rest of the guys in that group for basically putting the race on pause for a second while I could get a bike that worked.